January 28th, Genesis 49 verse 1 to 50 verse 26. Then Jacob called his sons and said, "Gather around me, and I will tell you what will happen to you in the days to come. Come together and listen, sons of Jacob. Listen to your father Israel. Reuben, you are my firstborn, my strength, and the first fruits of my vitality, excelling in prominence, excelling in power. Turbulent as water, you will no longer excel, because you got into your father's bed and you defiled it. You got into my bed." Simeon and Levi are brothers. Their knives are vicious weapons. May I never enter their council. May I never join their assembly. For in their anger they kill men, and on a whim they hamstring oxen. Their anger is cursed, for it is strong, and their fury, for it is cruel. I will disperse them throughout Jacob, and scatter them throughout Israel. Judah, your brothers will praise you. Your hand will be on the necks of your enemies. Your father's sons will bow down to you. Judah is a young lion, my son. You return from the kill. He crouches, he lies down like a lion, and like a lioness who wants to rouse him. The scepter will not depart from Judah, or the staff from between his feet, until he whose right it is comes, and the obedience of his people belongs to him. He ties his donkey to a vine, and the colt of his donkey to the choice vine. He washes his clothes in wine, and his robes in the blood of grapes. His eyes are darker than wine, and his teeth are whiter than milk. Zebulun will live by the seashore, and will be a harbor for ships, and his territory will be next to Sidon. Issachar is a strong donkey lying down between the saddlebags. He saw that his resting place was good, and that the land was pleasant. So he leaned his shoulder to bear a load, and became a forced laborer. Dan will judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel. He will be a snake by the road, a viper beside the path, that bites the horse's heels, so that its rider falls backwards. I wait for your salvation, Lord. Gad will be attacked by marauding bands, but he will attack their heels. Asher's food will be rich, and he will produce royal delicacies. Naphtali is a doe set free, that bears beautiful thorns. Joseph is a fruitful vine beside a spring. Its branches climb over the wall. The archers attacked him, shot at him, and were hostile toward him. Yet his bow remained steady, and his strong arms were made agile by the hands of the mighty one of Jacob, by the name of the shepherd, the rock of Israel, by the God of your father who helps you, and by the Almighty who blesses you with blessings of the heavens above, blessings of the deep that lies below, and blessings of the breasts and the womb. The blessings of your father excel the blessings of your ancestors, and the bounty of the eternal hills. May they rest on the head of Joseph, on the crown of the prince of his brothers. Benjamin is a wolf, he tears his prey. In the morning he devours the prey, and in the evening he divides the plunder. These are the tribes of Israel, 12 in all, and that was what their father said to them. He blessed them, and he blessed each one with a suitable blessing. Then he commanded them, I am about to be gathered to my people. Bury me with my fathers in the cave in the field of Ephron the Hittite. The cave is in the field of Machpelah, near Mamre, in the land of Canaan. This is the field Abraham purchased from Ephron the Hittite as a burial site. Abraham and his wife Sarah are buried there. Isaac and his wife Rebekah are buried there, and I buried Leah there. The field and the cave in it were purchased from the Hittites. When Jacob had finished instructing his brothers, he drew his feet into the bed and died. He was gathered to his people. Then Joseph, leaning over his father's face, wept and kissed him. He commanded his servants, who were physicians, to embalm his father. So they embalmed him. They took 40 days to complete this, for embalming takes that long. And the Egyptians mourned for him 70 days. When the days of mourning were over, Joseph said to the Pharaoh's household, "If I have found favor with you, please tell Pharaoh that my father made me take an oath, saying I am about to die. You must bury me there in the tomb that I hewed out for myself in the land of Canaan. Now let me go and bury my father, then I will return." So Pharaoh said, "Go and bury your father in keeping with your oath." Then Joseph went to bury his father, and all Pharaoh's servants, the elders of his household, and all the elders of the land of Egypt went with him, along with all Joseph's household, his brothers and his father's household. Only their children, their sheep, and their cattle were left in the land of Goshen. Horses and chariots went up with him. It was a very impressive procession. When they reached the threshing floor of Atad, which is across the Jordan, they lamented and wept loudly. And Joseph mourned 7 days for his father. When the Canaanite inhabitants of the land saw the mourning at the threshing floor of Atad, they said, "This is the solemn mourning on the part of the Egyptians." Therefore the place is named Abel Mizraim. It is across the Jordan. So Jacob's sons did for him what he had commanded them. They carried him to the land of Canaan and buried him in the cave at Machpelah, in the field near Mamre, which Abraham had purchased as a burial site from Ephron the Hittite. After Joseph buried his father, he returned to Egypt with his brothers and all who had gone with him to bury his father. When Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said to one another, "If Joseph is holding a grudge against us, he will certainly repay us for all the wrong we caused him." So they sent this message to Joseph: "Before he died, your father gave a command. Say this to Joseph: please forgive your brothers' transgression and their sin, the wrong they caused you. Therefore, please forgive the transgression of the servants of the God of your father." Joseph wept when their message came to him. Then his brothers also came to him, bowed down before him, and said, "We are your slaves." But Joseph said to them, "Don't be afraid. Am I in the place of God? You planned evil against me. God planned it for good, to bring about the present result, the survival of many people. Therefore, don't be afraid. I will take care of you and your little ones." And he comforted them and spoke kindly to them. Joseph and his father's household remained in Egypt. Joseph lived 110 years. He saw Ephraim's sons to be the third generation. The sons of Manasseh, son Machir, were recognized by Joseph. Joseph said to his brothers, "I am about to die, but God will certainly come to your aid and bring you up from this land to the land He promised Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob." So Joseph made the Israelites take an oath: "When God comes to your aid, you are to carry my bones up from here." Joseph died at the age of 110. They embalmed him and placed him in a coffin in Egypt. Psalm 17, verse 1 to 5. Lord, hear a just cause. Pay attention to my cry. Listen to my prayer from my lips free of deceit. Let my vindication come from you, for you see what is right. You have tested my heart. You have visited by night. You have tried me and found nothing evil. I have determined that my mouth will not sin concerning what people do by the word of your lips. I have avoided the ways of the violent. My steps are on your paths. My feet have not slipped. Proverbs 3 verse 21 to 24. Maintain your competence and discretion. My son, don't lose sight of them. They will be life for you and adornment for your neck. Then you will go safely on your way. Your foot will not stumble. When you lie down, you will not be afraid. You will lie down and your sleep will be. Matthew 18 verse 10 to 35. See that you don't look down on one of these little ones, because I tell you that in heaven the angels continually view the face of my Father in heaven. For the Son of Man has come to save the lost. What do you think? If a man has 100 sheep, and one of them goes astray, won't he leave the 99 on the hillside and go and search for the stray? And if he finds it, I assure you, he rejoices over that sheep more than over the 99 that did not go astray. In the same way, it is not the will of your Father in heaven that one of these little ones perish. If your brother sins against you, go and rebuke him in private. If he listens to you, you have won your brother. But if he won't listen, take one or two more with you, so that by the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses, every fact may be established. If he pays no attention to them, tell the church. But if he doesn't pay attention, even to the church, let him be like an unbeliever and a tax collector to you. I assure you, whatever you bind on earth is already bound in heaven, and whatever you lose on earth is already lost in heaven. Again, I assure you, if 2 of you on earth agree about any matter that you pray for, it will be done for you by my Father in heaven. For where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, I am there among them. Then Peter came to him and said, Lord, how many times could my brother sin against me and I forgive him? As many as 7 times? I tell you, not as many as 7. Jesus said to him, but 70 times 7. For this reason, the kingdom of heaven can be compared to a king who wanted to settle accounts with his slaves. When he begins to settle accounts, one who owed 10,000 talents were brought before him, since he had a way to pay it back. His master commanded that he, his wife, his children, and everything he had to be sold to pay the debt. At this time the slave fell face down before him and said, Be patient with me, and I will pay you everything. Then the master of that slave had compassion, released him, forgave him the loan. But the slave went out and found one of his fellow slaves who owed him 100 denarii. He grabbed him, started choking him, and said, Pay what you owe. At this, his fellow slave fell down and began begging him, Be patient with me and I will pay you back. But he wasn't willing. On the contrary, he went and threw him into prison until he could pay what was owed. When the other slaves saw what had taken place, they were deeply distressed and went and reported to their master everything that happened. Then after he had summoned him, his master said to him, You wicked slave, I forgave you all that debt because you begged me. Shouldn't you also have had mercy on your fellow slave as I had mercy on you? And his master got angry and handed him over to the jailers until he could pay everything that was owed. So my heavenly Father will also do to you if each of you does not forgive his brother from his heart. Sand in machinery. I forgave you all that debt because you begged me. Shouldn't you also have had mercy on your fellow slave as I had mercy on you? Matthew 18 verse 32. to 33. If we were to maintain spiritual freshness, we must determine to forgive everyone who hurts us and refuse to nurse a grudge. Grudges become glooms. A few years after World War II, a Christian Japanese boy at a public speaking contest announced that his subject would be the sacredness of work. Some people smiled at his choice, but when they heard his story, their smiles turned to tears. His parents and home were burned to ashes in the atomic bomb explosion at Nagasaki. He was the eldest of three surviving children, and together they knelt in the ashes of their home and prayed to know what to do. One of them said, "I know, we can work." So they set to work, gathering bits of tin and boards, and soon they had built a little hut in which to live. They could have nursed their grudge and become gloomy. Instead, they forgave, forgot, and went to work. No one who wants to maintain spiritual freshness can afford to nurse a grudge. It will poison both spirit and body. As one doctor put it, grudges put the whole physical and mental system on a war basis instead of on a peace basis. Walter Alvarez, who is both a medical doctor and counselor, says, "I often tell patients they cannot afford to carry grudges or maintain hates. Such things can make them ill and tire them out. I once saw a man kill himself inch by inch simply by thinking of nothing but hatred for a relative who had sued him. Within a year or two he was dead. A grudge or a resentment is sand in the machinery of living." Prayer. O Father, teach me how to get the splinters of resentment out of my soul and also out of my body. Help me to decide that it is the oil of love, not the sand of resentments, that shall go into the machinery of my life day by day. Amen.